Mr. Jeremy Allen, and David has the timer down here.
If you're mid-sentence, we'll give you a few more seconds. We'll do our speak for the time. Okay.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Allen. I'm running for town council. Thanks for having me, Mr. Moore, Mr. Middleton, and LCCF. The reason I'm running is there was an invitation at one of the town council meetings made by President Mushin that if anyone thought they could do a better job running the town council, they should run. And it's not necessarily that I think I can do a better job, but I'm fairly certain I can do a faster job. Town government seems to move very slow in this town. I think they are judicious and they plod along, but a lot of times we need actions quicker. Some of these gentlemen have been members of the town council longer than Google has existed. And I think it's important that we do things to speed up our town government and make it work faster when there are issues that need to be met out quickly. Thank you very much.
Mr. Appleton?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending. My name is Charles Appleton. I'm running for re-election to the town council. I'm the junior member of the council. I'll have 10 years on next month. I'm originally from Swansea, Massachusetts. I grew up there and went to local schools. I first came to Little Compton in 1966, 50 years ago. My wife, who was my girlfriend back then, is now my wife for 47 years, brought me here to Little Compton because her family lived here and has for many years. I did 3 years in the United States Army, 1 year in Vietnam. I did 34 years in the Massachusetts State Police. I retired there as a major, and 10 years as your Little Compton Town Council. I think that concludes my time.
Thank you, Mr. Appleton. Mr. Gillette?
Thank you for having me. My name is Matthew Gillette. I've been in town the last 5 years, which I know isn't a tremendous amount of time compared to many of my neighbors up here. But my platform is pretty simple. We need to move certain aspects of the town government into the 21st century. We need to be able to communicate better between the town council and the people of the town using social media, internet forums, and other means that are available to the town. There's a lot we can do to manage calendars, and a lot of inefficiencies can be taken out of the government as they are now resolved.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Mr. Golombowski?
Hi, thank you all for coming. My mother was born on a farm here back in 1922, and my father was stationed here during World War II and married the farmer's daughter. That's how I got here. I consider myself a local, but not even a senior local, but just a local. So Little Compton's in my blood. I just want to keep it rural. I want to keep it Little Compton. I know there's a lot of issues before us and a lot of things that need to be resolved and that we work on. The one thing I've learned about government is it moves at glacial speeds. And I used to be frustrated by that in the beginning. But I see a reason behind it now. There are so many unintended consequences that happen when you pass something in a hurry or get something done in a hurry. You really have to be methodical about it. I know it's very frustrating because I've experienced it for the last 14 years. So that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Mr. Golombowski. Mr. Mataronis?
My name is Gary Mataronis. I'm a lifelong resident of Little Compton. My family's been here for over 100 years. My father, my brother and I, and all my children went to Woolworth School. Back in 2001, I was appointed to the Harbor Commission. In 2003, I was elected chairman of the Harbor Commission. In 2008, I ran a successful bid to be on the town council. So I've been on the town council for 18 years, and my service to the town has been 25 years. So I guess I'm one of those full-timers on the council that was spoken about. But I try to deal with issues arising in town with compassion, with a common sense approach instead of a political one. So I have very very much invested in this town, and I continue to hope to do so in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Mataronis. Mr. Mushin.
Thank you very much for being here. This group is as large as the Rumble Strip group, which makes me think that you're really here because you want to know something about what we're doing. I've been privileged to serve for 12 years as town council president. I'm looking to serve 2 more. And I reflect back on 2004 when I first decided to run. I thought 27 years in the submarine service on the planning board, an unsuccessful bid for school committee would suit me well to be on the town council. After you citizens elected me to the town council, my fellow councilors elected me the town council president, and my education began. There's a lot of sea stories there, there are probably really land stories, but the reality is that's not what it's about. Here's the most important lesson that I learned. This job as a town councilor is as close as it gets in America to representative government. The 5 people you elect must serve each other and you. Without that, you simply have a popularity contest.
Thank you, Mr. Mushin. Mr. Tumber.
My name is Jim Tumber. I moved here this morning, at least compared to these guys. My wife and I bought the Roost Inn from the Sampsons 10 years ago. I then moved my businesses here and spent a lot of time here, all weekends here, all summer here. And about a year ago, we sold our home in Barrington, our home of 23 years, and moved here permanently. I'm a serial entrepreneur in the engineered packaging industry. I have a degree in government, and my wife, Maria, has always been the holdback on me entering government. She's very private, and or at least was. And in recent years, she took an appointment at the State House, and since then, she's learned a lot about politics, and she's encouraged me to finally run for office. So I'm in this for government.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tumber. All right, we will now move on to the questions we received from the community. Do you want me to pick the?
Yeah, just let me reset.
All right.
So
So I will first read the question. We will each have 90 seconds to answer. You know the questions, but if you need me to repeat it, just let me know and I can do it. So the question is, what fiscal or management experience would you bring to the town council to assure Lowell Compton maintains its AAA bond rating, along with a successful pension program and capital investment program? So the first person is Mr. Golombeski.
I won something finally. Well, I've been running a small business for close to 30 years, so I know the ups and downs, I know the liabilities, I know how to balance a checkbook. Am I a number cruncher? No, and I use that term affectionately about people who are. But I've been working with a great group of guys that has got us to where we are today, and we're really in good shape with the pension plan. And we've been doing what the actuaries recommend. We've been putting the money in that was required to be put in. And watching our investments and investing for the long term, not the short term. I mean, I don't have much more to say on it.
Thank you, Mr. Golombeski. Next person to answer will be
Needless to say, if you don't eat all the time, don't eat all the time.
Mr. Tumber.
I am famously cheap. Hopefully that counts. I'm very fiscally conservative. I also have started and built 3 different businesses, 2 very successfully. And so I have a lot of business experience, general business experience. Prior to starting my own companies, I worked as a construction project manager in a municipal construction space in Rhode Island. And so I have very deep experience in project management, contract negotiation, estimating. I have a very good handle on capital improvement type projects. In terms of this capital investment, I think Tom Dunn has done a fantastic job of developing a 5-year capital plan. The town council does seem to be following that. I think that's a step in the right direction. In terms of bond rating, low taxes equals a low rating, and we have extraordinary low taxes in this town. And so I don't think our bond rating is at much risk, but I would say that my aim would be to keep taxes as low as possible. At the same time, I would also say that pound wise, penny foolish. I think sometimes you need to spend money to save money, so I'd be looking for those opportunities as well. It would not be fair to act on them when I saw them. terms of a successful pension, we have a very small legacy in town and a very well-funded pension fund. So I'm not that concerned about that.
Thank you, Mr. Cumberland. Next person. Mr. Mataronis.
I'm the president and CEO of Mataronis Lobster Company, which owns an 85-foot lobster boat. It stays at sea for 5 to 6 day trips and has a captain and 4 crew members. I'm also the president and CEO of Three Guys Real Estate, which owns 2 commercial buildings that are rented out. I'm proprietor of Continental Lobster Company, which has a 40-foot lobster boat that I run. I do all the local and state filings for these companies, as well as all the bookwork, bookkeeping, payroll, 401k plan, all profit and loss statements, and reconciliation reports. In 2008, this town council appointed a business manager, and this year we appointed him as the town administrator to handle most financial issues with oversight from the town council. We also have a pension committee, and as most of you know, it is fully funded, and I've had 18 years on town council, like I previously said, so that's 18 budget workshops that I've been into, and 18 financial town meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Mataronis. Next person. Mr. Allen.
Okay, well, I think this is my 20th year running my meager little gardening business. I have 2 very fancy $500 trucks. I don't like to incur a lot of debt in my own world, and I think the way our pension system is run is flawless. It's close to perfect. I've done a lot of research on things like bonds and our AAA bond rating and why it's important. I've talked to Mr. Mush in his office about kooky ideas like, let's sell all the land to buy a school. And he informed me that was bad for a bond rating. And I've learned since that he's completely right. I was at a budget committee meeting, I think you were there as well, when Mr. Morrison came in and said, we need to make sure we can raise taxes because that helps our bond rating. Which, coming from Scott Morrison, is illuminating at a public meeting for him to say that. And there are many factors that go into this bond rating. I'm not going to pretend like I know what they are, but if we can keep or sort of stay the course with this, I don't think we're getting an argument out of anybody, that we're doing a good job. There's just a lot of factors when it goes into bond ratings that were way above my pay grade, but things seem to be going very well. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Appleton.
Yes, thank you very much. My management experience really started many years ago when I was in the Massachusetts State Police, through the ranks as a lieutenant, captain, finally as a major. I was on the command staff and was appointed the commanding officer of Troop B, which encompassed the 4 western counties of the state of Massachusetts. We had a budget of $96 million that I was responsible for in that area. And upon retirement, I moved full-time to Little Compton. That was almost 14 years ago. And 10 years ago, I ran for council, and I've been a councilman. And my experience in working with the unions here in town and formulating their contracts. We've negotiated several now with the police, fire, and municipal workers here in town. And I'm going to mention that we have tremendous municipal workers here in town. Our police, fire, schools, just tremendous people. Because this is a small town, and we have very small departments. So it's crucial that we treat them right in settle these contracts in a fair way, not only to them, but also to the town.
Thank you, Mr. Appleton. Mr. Gillette.
Well, I'm probably the youngest guy up here. here with the least amount of experience. Coming from a lot of school and recently purchasing a house, having a wife and a kid who's about to go to school, I know a bit about debt. I know a bit about managing debt. I have to say that I have a lot to learn. And that's one of my main goals, should I become elected, is to learn from those around me who have more experience than myself, to learn from the people of the town who have lots of ideas and who have more experience than myself. And I am one of those number cruncher types that was talked about earlier. I'm an engineer at MIT Lincoln Laboratory, and I love it here. And I would love to crunch numbers, to keep these bond ratings great, to keep the municipal workers happy, and to learn.
Mr. Motion?
Fiscal experience, as others have alluded to, in the municipal side is largely a learned experience. It's not necessarily the same as one grows up with in other forms of pursuit. I would suggest that the third-party nature of it, the municipal bonding process, all of those require some study and some understanding. I would suggest that in the area of management experience, I would substitute leadership experience. And here's what I'd suggest to you. If we look back in the run-up to the AAA bond rating that we achieved, we had a series of budget committee chairs from Mike Fort to John Hort to Ben Goffin to Scott Morrison. All four of those people were intimately involved in the details of what it meant to be able to bring us to a position where our not only existing financial status was what we said it was, but other people would believe that. As a result, we got the prize. It wasn't only due to that. It was also due to 15 people working together. 5 school committee members, 5 budget committee members, 5 town council members, and that was critical to that process. The pension program success has been similar. It's the best in the state. The reason for that is, again, the idea that we have dedicated volunteer people with capabilities that are diverse. The fiduciary responsibility of that group is always at the forefront. Finally, the capital plan, I would agree with Mr. Tumber. The idea is that the town administrator has been an effective second check on our process.
Thank you, Mr. Motion. I will now move on to the second question. The November 8th election ballot will include a proposed change to the Little Compton Home Rule Charter, which, if approved by voters, would authorize the town council to replace the elected board of assessors with tax assessors, with a single tax assessor, which the town council would appoint. Do you support or do you not support this amendment? And please explain why. Our first candidate is Mr. Tumber.
Little Compton is the only town in the state of Rhode Island that has elected assessors. And the reason for that is a little bit nefarious. I'm not suggesting anything like that's going on here. But, you know, when you have an elected assessor, there's a risk of political favoritism. It's the same reason that sheriffs and judges in many counties around the country are not elected. In Little Compton, we have a low pay, high turnover issue in the assessor's office. And these positions tend to fall to retired guys who are elected every 2 years, and there seems to be a lot of shuffling that goes on in that office. So I would support that initiative. My first thought would be to outsource this function, but that's illegal. We're not allowed to do that. And it would represent a net loss to one job here in town with Denise Cosgrove. Then my preferred plan would be to hire a professional. You get what you pay for. This might cost a little bit more. It's one of those situations, pound wise, penny foolish. But in Denise Cosgrove, we do have somebody who has institutional history. She's very competent and experienced, responsive. All she needs is a certification. Right now, we're paying about $44,000 a year for that function. For a little bit more money, we could get her in that position. She's already in the pension plan. And incidentally, This ballot initiative is not a mandate, it just authorizes the option, and I do think we should take this slowly and figure this out.
Thank you, Mr. Tingley. Next up, Mr. Hamilton.
Yes. Yes, I do support this change to the single assessor. Basically, it would maintain the continuity of day-to-day business. And you already elect your representatives in the town council, and I would say that's your way of letting them pick or hire a single assessor.
Thank you, Mr. Appleton. Mr. Allen.
Anytime we devolve power from the people or we give it to another institution, like we're actually talking about how we want to have the town council, if any of us are elected, will then have the power to appoint this position. And I think it would just be better if the people decided who their assessors were and take that off our plate. I know it's hard to get people that are just willing to join these committees anyways. So if you have someone that's willing to run and be elected, that's someone who's motivated for the job, and it's taking power out of the town council and giving it back to the people. So I disagree with the two other answers.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Wilshire.
I support the proposed amendment. I caution that the charter is a we the people document. It's the place that we ensure that the people have a say. So I only suggest changes to it in limited circumstances. This is one of those. An example is the business manager decision, which was in place when this council came into office and only years later was exercised. The town has the ability in the process of taking the decision of the council to say what will be the implementing ordinance and what will be the constituent parts of that implementing ordinance. The town still has the ability in a public hearing to take issue with the way in which the council seeks to implement such a plan. But I believe firmly that this gives us more flexibility and obviously is subject to a careful review before the action is taken to go to a single assessor.
Thank you, Mr. Wilshire. Mr. Matarazzi.
I support this proposal to put on the home rule charter, put it into the home rule charter. I don't support it at the present time. I support being put into the home rule charter, but not to implement it at the present time. Right now, we have 3 assessors in there. They all make about $5,400 a year, which saves the town quite a bit of money. If somebody's sick or somebody's on vacation, there's always somebody filling in at the assessor's office along with the clerk. If we hire 1 full-time assessor, it's going to bring that, that's roughly $16,200 for the 3 assessors. That's going to bring that up to approximately $60,000 to $80,000 benefits. Every year that's going to increase, pretty soon it'll be over $100,000 for an assessor. So I think it'll be a good idea down the road, but it needs to be thoroughly vetted and it has to be looked into very thoroughly by the town council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matarazzi. Mr. Gillette.
I agree with Mr. Allen that taking the power away from the people to vote on their board of assessors is just that, taking the power away from the townspeople. I disagree with this. At the same time, this is also on the ballot. It's for the people to vote for. This question is up to the people. It's not up to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Mr. Goldberski.
Hey, first and then last. I support this, and it's basically for the continuity of the office. You get great guys in there, but they flow and go. And I just think it's a better way to keep a better track of our assessments of our properties. There's variations in it when you get people changing office, difference of opinions. There is no oversight because they're elected officials, so you can't have a say, the council can't have a say. And to get to the people don't like what the council is saying, the assessors, then this is going on right now, they can be elected out of office for making that say. Also, in the overseeing of it, the single assessor, there is going to be the assessors that are elected as a board of review to watch this process take place. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to be all of a sudden one day a new guy walks in, hey, you're the assessor, and he's got no help. So I think it's a good idea, and I endorse it.
Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to the third question. Now we get 90 seconds to answer. The third question reads, the granting of licenses for entertainment activities in areas currently zoned as residential and agricultural has been of great interest in our town, particularly over the past several months as it relates to the Stonehouse and Secana Vineyard. If elected, would you propose any amendments to the zoning ordinance specifically regarding entertainment activities? And if so, what process do you propose for developing such amendments? We will start with Mr. Russian.
In a word, yes, I support such a review. I believe that the process is already underway. The focus of that process is these kinds of specifics. Look at the use tables for the residential zone and decide whether or not the specifics with respect to how property may be used in the residential zone comports itself with residences. In fact, if we need to change something, we need to specifically look at the agricultural sections which define what constitutes agricultural support activities. What are the auxiliary uses associated with agriculture? More specifically define those so as to make sure that the kinds of uses that the properties are being put to now are not continued.
Thank you. Mr. Gillette.
I have to say, I agree with Mr. Russian's words. I don't have any particular proposals, but review is definitely needed. And I do believe that there are entertainment activities that reach beyond what agricultural use should entail. So I do believe that we need to review, and develop certain amendments which would curtail activities as those that are currently taking place.
Thank you. Mr. Golometsky.
Well, we as a council have enacted a more specific entertainment license, and we've amended it once already. This is one of those frustrating to the public and to us as well, one of those glacial speed things, I see it as. We don't want to go so far as to stop something altogether to find out that we're stopping other things. One of the backfires almost was the Right to Farm Act. We were going to enact, when we were going to enact this, it was you guy couldn't use crop cannons anymore. We're like, well, no, we didn't intend that. And that to me goes back to the glacial speed on how we get things done. It's the unintended consequences that can happen with this. So I would wait and see how the amendments work out and make changes as necessary, balancing the interests of both the farm or the agricultural use versus the townspeople in the area that are being affected by it. But I would take more of a wait and see attitude now because we have put things in place.
Thank you. Mr. Allen.
Can I have my 30 seconds from the last question?
I'm sorry.
Okay. So, first of all, it's a non-starter with me. There are a lot of things I'm very flexible about, but using ag trust land as a parking lot is a non-starter to me. I don't understand how that happens. If somebody gives their land to the Ag Trust, it should not become a parking lot, end of story. That means the 100 acres that we have on Brownell Lane, we could just turn into a parking lot and shuttle people to the beach. Okay, it would be a great way to make revenue, but it's not how you use Ag Trust land, period. Okay, the noise ordinance looks great on paper. Okay, I have no problem with what is actually written down, but I've met with a lot of people who say, oh, the music gets turned down before the police get to my house. So I had a meeting with Kevin Venetulli of Stonehouse fame and asked him point blank, do you get a phone call when someone calls the police to turn the music down? He said, oh yeah, that's how the town council set it up. So if you call from Round Pond to say there's a noise complaint, he gets a phone call before the police can ever get to your house. It's not written down, it's not part of an ordinance, it's nothing that needs to be changed, but that's an intelligence test, not a noise ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Apple.
Yes, thank you. Chapter 14 zoning was enacted in 1968. It has been changed numerous times, several times in its entirety. So I would support a review of that. And just to let you know, I'm very concerned about the health and safety and general welfare of our citizens here in town. When you talk about complaints, there's noise, let me just say that our police department is just tops in one of these things. The integrity is beyond reproach. And yes, they have gone through a number of complaints, and they haven't found any violations. However, I want you to know that I'm a supporter of keeping Little Compton little. That was an old campaign phrase or an old phrase years ago. But that's my view. Thank you.
Mr. Tumbert.
This is actually two separate issues for me. There's the Stonehouse and there's the Vineyard issue. I believe that the Stonehouse issue can be resolved through a zoning chart, through the zoning table. I will point out that the zoning table the zoning ordinance does say that only allowed activities are allowed, in so many words. And victualling, entertainment, and retail are not specifically allowed, so they're not allowed. That's how I read the table. So there could be some changes in order to bring a Stonehouse type situation under some control. Of course, this is now in the courts, and a lot of it's out of the town's control until that's resolved. There'll be some sort of precedent that comes out of that. With the Vineyard issue, you need to understand that the Right to Farm Act is in two parts. The first part involves farming operations that cannot be infringed. They include disturbing the soil, applying pesticides, odors, and noises, which is where the crop cannons come in. But the whole second part has to do with farming operations, which other sorts of activities that farms might need, and the state law is very specific that towns can infringe that. The town's ordinances supersede the state. So I would propose that we have what I call a thriving farms ordinance that would clearly define what a farm is, what kind of activities are allowed, and I would encourage retail, entertainment, and victualling on these farms. But I would try to avoid it being done under the rubric of a corporation that's building a brand. Like, for me, a large part of the problem is the fact that this is a very large businesses come into town.
Mr. Mataronis.
Well, most of you know that we did put a noise and entertainment ordinance into effect in January 2016. We recently made changes to those ordinances to make them more restrictive, because that's what we had public hearings, and it better reflected what was asked for us to do by the neighbors. I think it's going to be an ongoing process where we have to update these regulations and ordinances as circumstances arise. And also, we've made it so that if the zoning official determines there's been an intensification of use, then these organizations are going to have to go for a special use permit. And I think there needs to be a balance between the commercial interest and the neighborhoods in the town, because I don't think anybody wants these commercial enterprises to leave town and have buildings sitting there with no tax income from them, or just turn into white elephants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matamoros. All right, we will now move on to question 4. The Rhode Island Low and Moderate Income Housing Act requires by law that 10% of each town's housing stock be affordable. The most current figures available as of 2014 from Rhode Island Housing show Little Compton's percentage at just 0.56%, the lowest in the state. If elected, what steps, if any, would you take to work towards increasing or meeting that 10% requirement in our town? First up, Mr. Allen.
Great. Ready for some numbers real quick? Your eyes will glaze over. So this first came to light because President Mushin brought it up at a meeting. I was at the meeting filming it, and I dug into this because we potentially could be on the hook next year or 2018 for over $200,000 in fines because we're not meeting this goal. But that number goes up. By 2028, we need 250 units in this town, or we get fined $500,000 a year. Okay, and that's more than our 4.1% increase can deal with, and we've done nothing about it. We tried to build affordable housing at the Country Harvest, and that was voted down by the town council. It was also opposed by the Democratic Party and the Congregational Church. Everyone says they don't want affordable housing in their backyard. We have 300 families, elderly people in this town that will qualify for affordable housing. We're running out of time. So here's the deal. Just north of my property, there's a piece of land for sale, okay? The Ag Trust is showing interest in it. If there's no other place in this town to build affordable housing for the elderly people that live here, can we build it in my backyard? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Condor.
Wow, this issue in 90 seconds, all right. First of all, I think most people assume that when we talk about affordable housing and meeting targets that we have to increase our housing stock by that 10%. So that means building 200 new units, and I'd like to see the town remain small. So there's 2 groups that I'm concerned about in this arrangement. Number one are the elderly, people who built this town. I think they should have some access to remain here in their later years. And then there are the young families who have grown up here and want to settle here and have been shaped by the town. So I had kind of 2 strategies. One would be to develop some kind of elderly housing in town. I would like to see the town council work with the Ag Trust to identify some parcels so there would be a very large perimeter around it. Secondly, I would work with the assessor's office to identify those houses that are already on the tax rolls that already meet the $250,000 assessment standard, and try to put together a program offering a tax rebate to them using the money that we would otherwise be paying as a fine, and put these houses into a program that would hopefully increase the number. I don't know the exact numbers, but those would be my first strike problem.
Mr. Goldenbowski.
This is difficult because I personally believe that this is an overreach by the state, and it directly impacts our rural character. Not against affordable housing, wish my kids be able to afford to build and stay here as well. And if we hadn't come up with a plan, the state would allow a developer to come in and just violate our 2-acre zoning and stop putting houses in. We have a very limited infrastructure in town because we're rural. We have no city water, no city sewerage, we don't even have garbage pickup unless you want to buy it, which is cheaper, by the way, than having the taxpayers pay for it. And we have no drugstore, nothing. There's no infrastructure to support a lot of these, how do you phrase this, a lot of people that would come in who could qualify for affordable housing. So what happens? Do you act like a snob and you say, nope, I don't want any of them in our town? No, of course not. We want our people to stay, we want our kids to stay, but we don't want to draw people in from the outside because it's a great place and the taxes are cheap, which will go up if this all goes, if it goes through. So the largest cities drove this legislation through because they already had that 10%. So they didn't care, and they drive the state, they drive the government, and they drove this through. We put a plan in place. They agreed to it, and they said it was okay. And I think we should just keep going with the plan that they approved and keep trying to reach our goal through the means that we've established. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Russia.
To review the numbers, 1,500 year-round houses means 150 affordable houses. We have 9. We have 9 for the reasons that have already been said. Compton Cliffs was an effort that didn't succeed. On Willow Avenue, we have a 6-unit affordable housing entity that tripled our affordable housing. The problem is, it's not repeatable. The reason for that appears to be demand. That is, there's a number of people in this town who live in houses that, in which they meet 2 of the 3 requirements. First, they are low income. Second, they have a subsidy. But third, they are not willing to commit their land or their property to 30 years of encumbrance as affordable housing. My suggestion is that we work with the General Assembly not to fine us for failure to do something, but rather to redefine what it means for us to have affordable housing in this town, which means 2 of those 3 requirements are met, and the 3rd one is met only until the person passes away. Then that property comes off the books. We then need to be able to add another one to the books, but I think that way we will have a much better chance of achieving our goal.
Mr. Appleton.
Yes. I'm the council representative to the Housing Trust here in town. And like Mr. Marshall just told you, we have 9 units currently available. 150 units is just impractical in this town. I, along with the other members of the Housing Trust, have searched every single property map in this town to look for some available property, something that we could propose building some affordable housing. And I can tell you it is very, very difficult to find. We're currently looking at houses that can be rehabbed. And again, it's finding the funds to do that. And the thing I can tell you is that, I mean, we're working on this. This town is very, very difficult to solve that problem. We have little public transportation. We just don't have it. And it's, I think the time is up.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gillette.
Again, this is a very difficult issue, being the rural area that we are. There are not a whole lot of jobs around this area that can afford people the incomes that it takes to buy a house here. I myself commute an hour, 30 minutes each way to afford where I live. That being said, we need to do something. We need to provide the people who need the assistance for their housing to get that assistance. And you can say it's overreaching of the state, but it's just in the good nature of the town to provide and help out people who are less fortunate and do need support in getting their housing.
Thank you very much. Mr.
2005, this council created a housing trust to deal with obtaining and creating affordable housing. In 2007 to 2009, they worked diligently to try to acquire land and build an affordable housing complex on the old Compton Cliff restaurant site. And this was met with so many obstacles and such tremendous opposition from the neighborhoods, it was eventually dropped. The biggest hurdles that I see for affordable housing is where's the financing going to come from. I spoke about hiring an assessor that was going to be $60 to $80 to $100,000. This is going to be, who knows how much it is going to be to rehab houses or build new houses. One of my thoughts was, instead of keep taking land, the Ag Trust keep taking land and conserving it, maybe they can take some land and set it aside for affordable housing. That would be one of the aspects of the financial aspect of it, that you would have the land already. It would be much simpler to build the houses on it. And unfortunately, the state keeps sending down unfunded mandates to the town to keep doing these things. We'll do them, but you have to give us the finances to do it. We just can't put it on the taxpayers' back anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we have one final question. And it is, what would you work to change in our town if elected a member of the Little Compton Town Council? First up, next up, Mr. Mataronis is not still last Oh, Mr. Mataronis.
Thank you. I'm not sure what needs to be changed in Little Compton, if anything. Little Compton is cherished for its charm and quietness, and this does not invite change. This council has made many changes in the last 10 years as circumstances have arisen. We recently created a new recreational field, which was quite a challenge, and it was funded by Municipal Trust, which I'm a representative of, with $125,000. EM came up with another $250,000, and the generosity of the town came up with the rest of the money. We just did a complete and comprehensive rehab of the school, which is another change. We've had several enhancement projects down at Secana Harbor, one of them which was all done with grant money at no cost to the town. That's my end of town that I jointly represent. We had major repairs to the harbor breakwater. We put a new boat launching ramp in and a water flow pipe from the harbor to the Half-Raft Wildlife Refuge. We also just created the new noise ordinance and the entertainment license ordinances. So there is change going on in town. I don't think most people notice it or know about it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Appleton.
Change comes very slowly in Little Compton, I can tell you that. But if I'm reelected, one of the things that I'd like to work on, that I will work on, is changing the way we go about our contract negotiations with our municipal employees. I'd like to start that earlier, work on that. It would make it much easier when it's time to close the deal. And so it's fair to employees and it's fair to the town.
Thank you. Mr. Allen.
Well, I guess the correct way to answer this is I don't want to change anything, and that's why I'm running for town council. I feel this looming dread, not strike fears, but if there's a casino in Tiverton, things are going to change in Little Compton. If you're upset about the buses at the Stonehouse now, imagine greyhounds full of people going to South Shore Beach or down to the Point to fish. It's a tourist attraction. It's what they do at Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun. People will get bused to Point Judith to go to Block Island. People will get bused to Narragansett Beach to go to the beach while their significant other gambles. I want to protect us from that. I don't want that to happen. And I think that the Secana Vineyard is an example of how that can happen. However, it did happen. I hadn't been there in 10 years. I used to work there. And I went to a concert this summer, And it went from being the Sampson's little vineyard to Disney World. And I don't want a Cumberland Farms, I want a Wilbur store. I don't want Starbucks, I want the Art Cafe. So I don't want anything to change. Thank you.
Mr. Goldberg.
Changed, wow. What do you want to change? I mean, that's why we're all here, isn't it? We like where we are. We may want to stop some things, but we don't really want to change them. I don't think change for change's sake is not always a good idea. This council has kept the townspeople's trust close to their hearts. And we have a good running ship. I mean, I'd like to continue to work with the current council and, you know, revising and managing the town as we move forward in the next 2 years. The one thing we've changed, and I have to do this because of my trade, is we're changing the street lights over to LEDs. I'd like to continue that and continue to change those lights over and become more energy efficient in town. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Motion.
Two things I think we can work. One is highway maintenance. I think we can change the way we do highway maintenance. I think we can get ourselves closer to a 10-year cycle on both state roads and on town roads. The reason I say that is I believe the Department of Transportation is ripe for some conversation regarding could we use their engineering expertise, could we use their contracting, that sort of thing, in order to get some state roads in our town brought up to speed, since it's not happening right now. The second area is in the school student population. We have high-performing students, we have an attractive school, we have small classes, and we have a declining or flat population. We send our kids to Portsmouth High School. They get a good deal out of that. They charge us $10,000 a person, and we don't have to have a high school. I would say the opposite could happen here. We could charge other towns. There's a willingness on the Department of Education's perspective to do such a thing. We could charge other towns, even other towns in other states, to send their children to Little Compton schools. Look forward to working with the school committee to do that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gillette.
As a parent of a 4-year-old who's going to be entering lower school next year, I love Bob's idea of allowing other towns to send students to the facilities we have, having them pay for it. But the one thing I really want to change about this town is how the town council interfaces with the people in general. And that has to do with, you know, just setting up a Facebook page or something like that. So anyone who doesn't want to come to a committee meeting and sit through a committee meeting can voice their opinion about something that's bothering them, or voice a concern that they have. If they've got a great idea about something the committee could do. But right now, the means to actually access the committee are fairly limited. Same goes for any of the other municipal employees in town. Contacting them is difficult.
Thank you. Mr. Talbert.
When I think of 30,000-foot view on Little Compton and all the issues that we've raised tonight, I see two things. First of all, we've been too successful in our preservation because everybody wants to be here. That therein lies the kernel of the problem, is that Little Compton's highly desirable and valuable places are ripe for exploitation. So I think we need to grow into a new phase with our preservation effort. It's an effort that's gone on for 30 years, again, very successfully. We need to continue to secure properties and you know, secure them for the future. But we need to grow out of that and begin to actively protect them from exploitation, all manner of exploitation. It's sort of been going on at a crazy pace. We need to start bringing that in some order. And then we need to start, one way to get that done is to look at ways to leverage those assets. We have over $1 billion. I'm sure, I don't even know the number. No one knows the number, which is one of the curious things. There's so many different preservation efforts going on. I'd like to gather that in one place, take a look at it, and find some ways to use those assets to create jobs in town, and really in particular to help the small business community here. There's no reason in the world these people come here to see our beauty. We should get them to spend a little more money while they're here. So, and I think there's a way to do all of that. So I see us growing into a new phase. I would like to lead that effort.
Thank you very much. All right. We will now hear the closing statements. Each of you will have 60 seconds. I'm going to move in reverse alphabetical order this time. So we will start with Mr. Palmer.
Well, I feel that I bring some fresh ideas and some new energy to the town and to the town council. I've enjoyed working with the town council this last year. I was the person who wrote the letter that put the town on notice that some things were going on at the vineyard that were entirely new. I then formed a group in trying to raise this issue and press for some change. I'm a little concerned that the town council has, this is about the only criticism I'll make about them, but that the focus has been on the symptoms and not on the illness. My letter raised the issue about the use of agricultural easements, and the response has been to deal with the sound, the light, and the entertainment that's going on. And I think that's sort of backwards. I'd rather go frontally with this whole thing and deal with the problem through zoning, through ordinances. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
You talked a lot about change. Basketball courts with broken surfaces and lights that aren't there isn't a decent basketball court. A place to walk off of the road so as to be able to walk in a safe fashion is something we've never had. A playing field with a swamp in the middle of it isn't exactly a great playing field. We've addressed and solved those problems, and certainly those changes have been worthwhile. I would caution that change for change's sake, without the attendant cost and impact look, is not sufficient. We're not going to be able to survive in an environment where we simply conduct a wholesale set of changes and wait to see what the return on investment might be. That needs to be calculated in advance, and I think we can do it. Failing that, we'll get ourselves into the same position that some of our fellow cities and towns are in right now.
Thank you very much. Mr. Matarazzo.
This town council has been very diligent, hearing the voices of the town, trying to react to them. We've kept the tax base low. I don't think we've gone up in the last 10 years. I think it's been 89 cents. I think that's very important to the elderly people in town. We do give them tax breaks. As far as change goes, I'm not sure we need change. As I stated, this council's been very diligent about keeping Little Compton small, and I would really like to see this council put back into this council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Goldberg.
Well, I would ask people to look at the history over the last, say, just 10 years. We go back a little farther than that, and see what our successes and our failures have been. And I think you'll see that our successes were a lot more than any failures, if any. I think we've done a superb job with everything we've tackled. We make a great team. We run a tight ship. I know people are frustrated by, like I say, the glacial speed of things, but that's only us doing our due diligence. I mean, the school project, we took that over from the school and ran those numbers. And with the town administrator and the town council president at the helm, I think we've done a phenomenal job. And I hope the public sees and understands that and puts us back in office. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gillette.
I will agree. I think the sitting town council has done a great job at keeping taxes low, taking care of the town, and taking good care of it. But I see a number of new families moving in, a younger generation of people coming into this town. And I would like them to be able to speak up, and I would like to represent them. I would like to also thank
Thank you very much for having this forum. You know, all you have to do is pick up the newspaper today or turn on the TV and watch the news. What do you see? Scandal after scandal after scandal. But not in Little Compton. And I suggest to you that that's due to the leadership that we have here. So we have an outstanding police department, fire department, schools, municipal workers. And that is due to leadership. We have some great leaders in these departments. And I would ask that you vote for us to continue this. I'm going to humbly ask you for your vote on the 8th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Allen.
Thanks for having me. I neglected at the beginning to say that I have 4 kids that are in high school, one of them's in college, and we love it here. But for the first 18 years of my life, or from age 8 to 18, I lived in East Greenwich. Okay, when I was born, there were 80 working family dairies in East Greenwich. Okay, now there are 2 family-owned dairies in East Greenwich. Behind my house, where I lived, I could walk through a giant field, not very different from where I live now, where I could walk through, 7 acres of field, 8 acres of field. I could go fishing. I went back there recently. It's townhouses. The whole thing is paved. I will protect you from that. I'll do everything I can. I think I can work with anybody up here to do that. We're all on the same page. I'm just a little bit more aggressive. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Allen, and thank you to all of our candidates for joining us tonight. I just want to give everyone a big round of applause for